Hello and welcome in, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Joining me today to break down some sleepers, breakouts, and busts is Steven Johnson. Steven, thanks for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me. Excited to talk some fantasy football as we creep ever closer to the beginning of the season.
Yeah, like I did a few of these throughout the summer, and back in June, I remember saying, it's 20 minutes, just have some fun. It's June, nobody cares, it doesn't matter. It's about to start mattering. Like it's not just idle chit chat, shit that you say back in June and it's like, everything changed. Ignore what I said back then. It doesn't matter.
Hey, we got football this week. We got the Hall of Fame game. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, the football I'm looking forward to is the flag football one at the Expo. I'm just hoping I'm not this year's person who tears his ACL.
Yeah, we don't need to make that a recurring theme year after year for sure.
I also hope that I'm not the short white guy who goes viral for getting bodied by Des Bryant. So I also don't want to be on that list. I'm just saying. I do not. If we line up and I have to, I'm 5'9". If 5'9", about 190. If I got to cover Des Bryant, I quit. I go home.
Yeah, you get posterized. That's the last thing that you need, and everybody talking about for a weekend there.
Well, and I made that comment before, and they said, "Well, you know what? Your channel would really expand, and you'd be really popular." I don't know if I need it that bad.
Wrong kind of popularity.
Yeah, tear my ACL trying to cover Des Bryant in a flag football game. So, yeah, no, I'll pass. But before we get into it, you want to take a second to tell everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Steven with a PH_Roto, doing work with the Scott Fishbowl Avi Makers as well as Fishbowl merch, just wrapping up the Scott Fishbowl season with all of the wonderful t-shirts that we have going about, and then just writing freelance this season for fantasy football. So moving from design to content here, and like I said, getting ramped up for the 2023 season.
Those Avies are awesome. I got mine. So the day I got in, actually, you know what? Before I got in, I let my 8-year-old son pick. I'm like, which league which shirt am I going to order? And I ordered, he wanted the Skittles one. So you know what? Yeah. I ordered the Skittles one, got in the Skittles division. And then a couple of the player profiler guys got me to switch divisions. Don't like the Cheez-Its logo at all. So I've got the Avi of the Skittles, the shirt of the Skittles. I'm not even in the division, but the Skittles one looks awesome. And a lot of these, for my show graphics, like to tweet it out, I put a graphic, and a lot of them I use people's Twitter logo, and some of them, like a lot of them have their SFB Avi. Some of them are just freaking awesome. I look at them like, I don't even like that team, but that's sweet. So
yeah, we have a very talented group of designers, all volunteering their time to do all of it, and it's incredible just how much money we've been able to raise in such a short amount of time for Toys R Tots.
Some of them are awesome. I see Jordan tweet them out, and I'm like, oh, that's freaking sweet. I wish I had thought of that. And there's so many ideas, and then like I said, my Skittles one looked awesome, but some of them just are incredible. So. All right, enough about me and my love for the SFB Avies. I guess we can get into it here. Your first player is your sleeper. That would be Cleveland. That sounds so weird saying. Actually, do you know what the funny part is? I was glad you weren't early because I went to load up your card and I realized I had him printed up with the Jets graphic still on it because I had not adjusted to the fact that he is on Cleveland. So we have your sleeper, Cleveland receiver Elijah Moore. Fantasy Pros has him projected as wide receiver 48, negligible rushing stats, 47.4 receptions, 579.1 receiving yards, and 3.1 receiving touchdowns. What is it about Moore that you're buying in on?
So let's be honest here. 2022, not a great season for him whatsoever. Saw the loss in playing time, openly complaining about Zach Wilson, but who hasn't at this point? Exactly. Yeah. And it led to a decreased snap count, which we'll get to in a second, but let's rewind back to 2021. Moore's final 5 games of the year posted 3 top 10 finishes at wide receiver, including 1 week he was the wide receiver 1. The Zach Wilson conundrum, again, openly complaining about him, but with Wilson, had 23 yards per game. Without Wilson, jumped up to 52 yards per game, also doubling the receptions per game. He's, like you said, currently sitting at wide receiver 48, now gets to Deshaun Watson throwing to him and slots in behind Amari Cooper as Cleveland's wide receiver 2. Kevin Stefanski has been looking at Moore as positionless, and given the Browns' lack of a receiving option out of the backfield, utilizing his speed, whether it's in the slot, in the backfield, out wide. I love the opportunity for him to bounce back with having a quarterback who's actually capable of getting the ball downfield. And I think there's a very strong value sitting there. Again, wide receiver 48. It's just incredible how people have forgotten just how good he was his rookie season and is really setting up as a breakout third-year player.
I don't get what the Jets were doing. Like they brand him as a clubhouse cancer, and that's why they're going to trade him. So what? He openly complained about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson sucked. Everyone complained about him. Go on the internet. We didn't need Eli Moore to tell you that he sucked. Everybody knew he sucked. Like, you traded for Aaron Rodgers. That's how bad he sucked. Maybe cut Zach Wilson and keep Eli Moore. That receiving duo would have been awesome with Moore in there. But I guess their loss is Cleveland's gain. So we'll bring up the ADP sheet here momentarily. These things never click over properly. There we go. Going pretty much free. Well, no, I shouldn't say free, but wide receiver 47, 111 off the board in a range where you're left to choose between either rookies that you have to buy in on or aging veterans dealing with injury and whatnot. There are no safe options in this range.
Not at all.
Like I said, you're left with a bunch of old guys, some rookies, or Eli Moore. I like him in this range. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I do like him. I also like the guy just above him in Juju Smith-Schuster. I know a lot of people freak out about the whole Patriots thing, but those two guys compared to the rest of what that group is, again, Michael Thomas is now going on year 3 of not putting up consistent numbers or even being able to stay healthy. Quentin Johnson, well, we'll see what happens in LA. Again, kind of a iffy situation there. Already have a solidified 1 and 2 wide receiver. Odell Beckham coming back from injury. Jameson Williams coming off of a 6-game suspension. Lord knows what we're going to see there. And apparently he punched a guy at practice today. And then Zay Flowers, another rookie. So, I mean,
who punched a guy at practice today?
Jameson Williams, because he was dealing with drops and one of the corners started talking trash and he just turned around and just socked him in the face.
Let's be honest. He was collecting a gambling debt. We all know that's what happened. That's what happened. But it's funny.
Where's my money?
Yeah. The old Stewie from Family Guy. So
yeah.
It's funny you bring up Michael Thomas and Juju here. My first dynasty league was probably 2-3 years ago. And that year I was told going wide receiver heavy is the way to go in dynasty. My first 2 picks were Michael Thomas and Juju Smith-Schuster. That worked out very well. Pain. I'm a Saints fan too. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it's possible that we see some bounce backs, but I mean, in terms of at least playing conservative with the floor, I don't think you can get a better option there than Elijah Moore in that range, just given what we've seen. And again, the youth option as well.
Like, I get the trendy name in the Alabama helmet of Jameson Williams, but he's going to spot Eli Moore a 6-game head start. What are the odds he finishes above Moore? Slim to none.
Exactly. I don't foresee it happening whatsoever. And again, everyone's very high on Jameson Williams this year, but the fact of the matter is he still only had 1 catch last year. We truly have not seen him do much of anything on an NFL field. And I think it's a little overblown where he's even going right now. I wouldn't even consider him, within 10 picks of where his current ADP is, just given that situation that he's kind of brewing for himself there.
I agree. I'm trying to click on some Ari Meroff breaking news here. It doesn't say what, but Dallas running back Ronald Jones has been suspended for the first 2 games of the season. Oh, so much for the depth they brought in to help out Tony Pollard. If that doesn't scream we're bringing back Zeke, I don't know what does. I'd like to see what that was all about, but we will transition here now to your breakout. Someone I love. I loved this guy last year. Denver tight end Greg Dulcich. Fantasy Pros has him as tight end 15. No rushing stats noted. 47.4 receptions, 580.5 receiving yards, and 3.8 receiving touchdowns. This guy was awesome when he was healthy, when Denver's offense wasn't terrible. I have him in a lot of leagues, in dynasty leagues, and I draft him. Even I think he's my tight end one in Fishbowl. I was in one of those weird spots where I just kept getting stuck on the end of the run and ended up with Dulcich as my tight end. I feel great about him as a talent. The only thing that scares me, I'm a Saints fan. I know how much Sean Payton loved Adam Troutman, and he brought him along. That scares the hell out of me that Sean Payton may make this a thing. But what are your thoughts on Dulcich?
You know, I'm in the same boat as you. He is my tight end one in the Scott Fishbowl, and for good reason. I think he has all of the makings to be the next breakout tight end star. Someone has to pick up the slack, obviously, because Travis Kelce's not going to play forever. But a rookie tight end normally doesn't make waves the way that Dulcich did last year, and he had every opportunity to set the stage for this upcoming season. This past season, he was on the field for 76% of the snaps for the Broncos offense. And the best part about that number is, according to Pro Football Focus, he was only lining up in line on 33.5% of those snaps, meaning his receiving prowess on full display. Tight end 15, hit that smash button now to buy. Now, yeah, like you said, Sean Payton, new offensive coaching staff in town. But honestly, I don't think it could have been any better of a hire. You look at the way that Payton has raved about Dulcich so far, claiming he could even play a joker role, lining up all over the field due to his versatility. And the only tight end not to post a top 10 season under Sean Payton since 2013, Kobe Fleener. That is it. Everyone else has in some shape or form. So I'm gonna go way back in the time machine. But when Payton says his play sheet is going to be lengthy, not only in the passing game but in the running game, believe it. It would not shock me to see him be the surprise top 5 finish this season.
Oh, give me the second coming of Jimmy Graham. I loved old Ginger Jimmy. But you know what? Okay, so I was saying how I was scared of Troutman, and I was scared because there seems to be a lot of mouths to feed in this receiving core. I don't want to be the asshole about it, but feel a little bit better today. It looks like Tim Patrick's one less mouth to feed this year. I don't know if he ever plays a game again. He seems like he's done for a longer term rather than shorter. So one less mouths to feed may give him a bigger role. As you said, Sean Payton seems to describe him as the Joker, the Swiss Army knife tool. And unlike Pete Carroll, who lies through his bloody teeth, Sean Payton's actually been pretty honest and upfront for fantasy. Although I've got to say, with receivers, I don't really want any of the Denver receivers because Sean Payton hates your fantasy team, and it'll be a different one you have to start every week. With that being said, sorry, let me bring up the old tight end rankings here. His ADP is tight end 15, 131 overall. Going behind Freiermuth, Njoku, Okonkwo. That's got to adjust, I would assume, after the sign-in of D-Hop. I don't know how old that is. Dalton Schultz, who I seen earlier, left with an injury. I don't know how severe. Dalton Kincaid and Cole Kmet. And Rojo is suspended for violating the league's PED policy. Clearly, he was taking the wrong PEDs if that's what he was suspended for. So what do you think of Dulcich in this range here?
I'm a Bears fan. I do not like Cole Kmet there whatsoever. I do believe that he should be further down the list, even just given the fact that, there's a much different setup in the passing game this year for the Bears. Dalton Kincaid, again, a rookie tight end, talking along the same lines of what Dulcich was last year, obviously much more draft capital behind him. But again, these are names where I am kind of mind blown that Dulcich is not top 10. Again, you mentioned Chig, with Nuke now in town. I mean, that's got to be something that has to be adjusted very quickly there. And then
it doesn't let me do a time frame on Fantasy Pros, so that may not. I bet you if we had changed it this week, it's significantly lower.
Probably. And then, Dalton Schultz as well. I mean, he's another one of those guys where, just based on who's in those receiving rooms with him, he could put up some significant numbers. He could be one of those rarefied tight ends that leads the team in targets. But at the same time, it's not going to be a prolific offense that screams, this is going to be an incredible tight end this year. So I really do like him. Overall, 5 of those names that are sitting there in the double digits for him. Again, this is kind of wild that he is that low, just given the circumstances surrounding those players.
Yeah, I'm just trying to let me bring it up on the screen here. I switched over because I was, curiosity was killing me. I wanted to see what he was on NFFC ADP, where I can zero it in. I have it down as the last 10 days. So here he's 13, still behind Chig. So
Wow.
even in the drafts that have gone only in the last 10 days, Chig is still going ahead of Dulcich. It's closer, but still by one. And I'm not sure I understand what the hell's going on there.
I do believe there might be that thought that Hopkins is going to open things up. Chig won't necessarily see, multiple coverage on passes down the middle of the field. Maybe that's it. It'll open up things a little bit more. But again, that's a Titans offense that just does not pass the ball whatsoever. So I don't know what exactly the thought process is there, but maybe there's people out there smarter than me.
I loved I loved the size and athleticism for Chig last year, but he was a part-time player. I don't think adding D-Hop to the mix is gonna rectify that, but I
Right.
don't give me Dulcich. The more I see it, when I first took him, like I said, as my tight end one in Scott Fishbowl, I said, "Oh, this is a disaster." I really should have just because I almost took Kelsey at the 101, and then the plan was to get one of the next three, and they went, and then the next three, and they went, and next thing I know, I said, "Oh, it's Dulcich." I hammered a few late, but the more I like it, the more I'm thinking, Dulcich might not be too bad. I might have, top 5 or 6 here.
Yeah,
Uh,
I do think the opportunity is there. So I mean, if there's a guy you're going to take late, I'd say that's your best wild card ticket there.
Moving on to your bust. This person seems everybody hates, which is, I agree 100%. We have San Francisco wide receiver Deebo Samuel. I had a long night when I typed this because according to me, he's tight end 15. That would be wide receiver 15. I don't hate Deebo so much that he's tight end 15. Let me put that out there. He is wide receiver 15, 258.8 rushing yards, 2.5 rushing touchdowns, projected for 70.9 receptions, 902 receiving yards, and 3.9 receiving touchdowns. And I am going to switch this over right here to the ADP screen because I can make this case very quickly for why Deebo sucks. Let's see. We're still on tight end. I'm not a Deebo fan, if you can tell. Okay, so we
Couldn't
have
tell it
right
all.
here Deebo, wide receiver 16, 38th overall. Let's scroll down a little bit. What do we have down here? His teammate who finished ahead of him last year is 16 receivers later and 30 picks later. What the hell is going on? What are
You,
they thinking, and why is he your bust?
For as often as we talk about recency bias in fantasy football, Debo seems to have some sort of immunity to that entire thought process. It's been a hit or miss history for Debo in San Fran, especially when it comes to the injury history. Missed 4 games last year, 9 games back in 2020, sandwiched between that 2021 breakout campaign. The issue is there's much more likelihood that we're looking at a repeat of 2022 in 2023. Enter a full season of coexisting with Christian McCaffrey. Was not a good situation for Debo last year. Had just 3 games of over
Yeah.
10 points in half PPR leagues with CMC. That includes just 1 top 10 week at the position, while his next best weekly finish in those games was wide receiver 22. So as you can imagine, living up to the potential, definitely not the strong suit for him. He eclipsed his projected weekly total less than a quarter of the time last year. So you look at a guy that you're considering on that 3-4 round turn, and you're like, I'm going to pick a guy that can only catch his projected totals a quarter of the time. No bueno whatsoever. Give me Keenan Allen, give me Amari Cooper, give me DJ Moore, all those guys in that range, well ahead of Debo. Hell, even Brandon Ayuk, like we talked about a little bit further down the list, who has a much better opportunity at breaking out and finishing ahead of Debo once again.
And I don't get it. They say, oh, there's too many mouths to feed in San Francisco with the big 4 there. But Debo's the one who's keeping his ADP. Debo's the one who was affected most by it last year. He
Right.
was the worst of the 4, with Brock Purdy and all 4 in the lineup. I don't understand it. And I feel like the market is just giving him a pass. It has never adjusted. He had one good Swiss Army type season in a contract year and has done nothing. Meanwhile, Brandon Ayuk spent 1 year in Shanahan's doghouse and we've never forgiven him. I don't get this. I don't understand. I have nothing. I have no shares of Debo anywhere. Can't do it.
Yeah, he's a very tough pill to swallow when it comes to building around your fantasy teams. I just don't understand where all the love comes from when it comes to ADP, and maybe it's just that what if there. But again, talking about a guy who is fantastic after the catch, arguably the best in the game. But you got to get him the ball, and that's the biggest issue, especially when you're pairing him up with somebody like Christian McCaffrey, who is one of the best, if not the best, receiving options out of the backfield in the NFL and is siphoning the majority of what made Debo great in 2021.
Yeah, I'm completely out on Debo. Actually, like I said, I'd rather have Ayuk straight up, let alone at cost. So, there are. I think I've done this before where I look at Debo at wide receiver 16. I can scroll all the way down to probably wide receiver 34, maybe, where I'd take him maybe over Mike Evans, but I can scroll pretty far down before I find someone I like less than Debo. I have no idea why his cost is so high. It just makes no sense to me. But I thought it was just me, but the more I do these podcasts, the more I find people universally don't like Debo. So who is it who's drafting Debo that's getting this ADP? I don't get it.
That's a great question. I would love to meet them.
He must just be auto drafted, and according to ADP, he just someone gets him, but I don't understand it. So, well, thank you for joining me, Steven. You ever watch the show Supernatural?
I've never seen an episode.
Topic.
I've never seen a single episode.
You look like Dean from the show. I keep looking up. I'm like, oh, it's Dean from Supernatural.
he probably much more good looking and much more talented than I am.
Wow. All righty then. Well, this has been Sleepers, Breakouts, and Busts with Steven Johnson. Once again, I am Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist. This has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks again for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in. Have a good night and take care.